Crews are fighting a wildfire up there in White County. They've been doing this since yesterday evening, and we know about 26 acres have burned so far. Meteorologist Danielle Moss is live in White County this afternoon. And Danielle, you and I were talking about this last night during the 11 Alive News at 11, and you had pictures as well. This drought is not helping at all.
It is not helping at all, Ron. In fact, we are continuing to see this fire burn. In fact, this is a look. This is Buzzard Mountain in White County. This is really at the White and Lumpkin County line. You can see the smoke still smoldering there. You can smell it as the wind blows. In fact, in the last 20 or 30 minutes, we've had some really hefty wind gusts. And we are really starting to see fire officials attack this fire. Last night, like you said, Ron, we were under the impression that this was a 60-acre wildfire. Officials just updated us recently and said that it was actually 26 acres. Because of the aerial view, it makes things a little bit more difficult. It's also a very tough terrain. So they have had several factors playing into how they attack this fire, including past weather events. In fact, the recent ice storm that happened here back in January, also recent hurricanes within the last 10 years, including Hurricane Helene, have contributed to the dry fuels that are on the ground, making it very hard for them to get to this fire and attack it quickly. They will say that the good news is any structures, any homes that are in the way right now, in danger, they are continuing to keep them out of harm's way. They've been working since last night at this fire. I actually talked to a homeowner who says he's not too concerned about his house at this very time, even with that dry vegetation.
Well, you hope that when something like this happens, that it kind of catches everybody's attention. Anything can happen. Somebody could go by and throw a cigarette out. Anything like that. Camps could be having campfires. So just these dry conditions, and the vegetation here is so thick. If you look in the woods, the leaves and the mulch and the twigs are just so deep here and so forested and so old that if anything does hit them, it's like gasoline. It just takes off.
Well, that is definitely true. It is like gasoline. It just takes off. And that is the thing with all of this dry vegetation. We haven't gotten a good substantial amount of rain in quite some time. The last time we had measurable rain was on Easter, but that was not good enough for our drought conditions. In fact, the recent drought monitor has us, even here in Metro Atlanta, in extremely dry conditions. On top of that, there is a red flag warning for most of North Georgia, which means that you have to really only burn if it is necessary. White County officials say there's not a burn ban in place right now. However, you have to use extreme caution because the smallest spark could cause a big catastrophe. Right now, I am live in White County, and I know Chief Meteorologist Chris Holcomb has been monitoring all of this dry weather, including that red flag warning.
And Danielle, this is a real risk because, as you've just mentioned there, the dry vegetation on the ground, we have very dry conditions. Not only the fact that we don't have any rain, but also the air is very dry with relative humidities that are really low, and we have some wind too. So as you can see, all of us are in some sort of a fire danger. The more critical part is this area in red. That's north of Atlanta. That goes up into Cherokee County, Bartow County, Floyd County, also over into Polk County, over into Dawson County, Lumpkin County, White County, and also Habersham County northward. So Danielle was right up here in White County where we have that red flag warning in effect. The rest of us in the kind of tan color here, that's where there is an elevated fire risk. And we're going to continue with fire risks as we go through the next few days. In fact, tomorrow, we just got this update in just a few minutes ago where the National Weather Service and the Forestry Commission have now included Metro Atlanta in an elevated fire risk here for tomorrow. We need some rain. We just don't see any coming in anytime soon. And to add a little more fuel to the fire, we're going to have more heating. We're talking about potential record highs coming up this week. We're going to talk more about that coming up.
All right, important update there. Thanks a lot, Chris.